Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another hot and sweaty 5-minute workout routine, otherwise known as Warframe Guide. Before we begin, I'm now going to start putting these at the start of the video because I feel it's going to more so grab your attention, but make sure to come and join us on the Twitch side of things and to follow my Twitter. On Twitch, we record these videos with you guys so that you can get personally involved with them and have a general good old time together. We stream daily with Warframe and, well, mostly Warframe and some other games here and there, so feel free to come and join us. And maybe, if you feel nice, drop me a follow on Twitter as well, and that would genuinely be very appreciated. Now, on with the video! Today's video is going to be on the Master Rank 9 test, and I can already tell this video is probably going to be the more sought after of my Master Rank test videos, because Master Rank 9 is definitely one of the tougher of the challenges, and really pushes the boundary of what a new player will know within Warframe. So, without any further ado, we're going to introduce you to what Master Rank 9 is, and why it's such a darn pain in the arse. The Master Rank 9 test pushes you to do your best impersonation of Solid Snake clapping his ass cheeks through the spy-themed test. The arena consists of 3 segmented challenges. Completing the stealth kills for one segment will then unlock the next segment. Each segment entail having increasingly more enemies to murderify, and thankfully you do have 3 attempts across the entirety of this to get it right. Getting spotted will cause you to restart from the segment you're on, thankfully, so you won't have to redo the entire thing if you get spotted in the final area. Realistically, this is one of those tests that no amount of guide watching can fully prepare you for, and more so than any mastery test so far, this is definitely one that you will are heavily encouraged to run with Samars to test it, and trial it and get the muscle memory down. And rather than just telling you the best route, I'll give you my suggestions and emphasize that there is no real wrong path here. It's just down to practicing and finding what works for you, and leaves it open to your personal interpretation how you best approach it. However, there are some things we can look at to best aid you in completing this. In simplest terms, the idea of this test is not to get spotted. Each Grineer enemy has a long view, but in a very narrow cone, and sometimes they'll be able to look in your direction, but because their view is so narrow, you can often skirt their peripheral vision without getting seen by making quick jumps and staying on their sides. The best way to approach this test is slowly, utilizing the geometry and edging yourself to the corners of the walls and using your third-person perspective to get a good eagle-eye view as to where the Grineer are moving to. In short, in each area you'll have a set number of enemies to kill, and you'll need to kill them without being spotted. So you'll have to do your best impression of a butt-stabbing maniac to try and kill them off. Again, utilizing their basically Metal Gear Solid AI levels of vision to then assassinate them viscerally. The individual segments themselves are quite straightforward, and the execution is pretty much the same across all of them. Sneak around and murder the dudes in said area. In Area 1, you'll have 3 enemies evenly spread throughout the map, and it'll just give you a good introduction as to what is to come. There isn't really any suggestion as to which side you want to take first, as all 3 of the enemies are very obvious as to where they're moving to. So the idea here is you just want to move to the nearest wall, hide, and murder them as you go through. Once you've killed all 3, the next area opens up. Area 2 has 4 enemies, 2 in the upper area and 2 patrolling the pillars. Your best bet is to take out the guy in the front area first and work your way any way you wish from there, watching for the one patrolling the lower courtyard. The 2 upper enemies are rarely going to come into view of anyone else, so they can be handled quite easily. Stage 3 has 6 enemies, 3 in the main lower area patrolling, and then 3 in the back on the main pedestal. And the entire area is mirrored on either side. This one you want to take your time with, and go whichever way takes your fancy, as there's no real preferred pathing here. I'd recommend taking out the one closest enemy to either your left or right first, and then going for the middle guy. This will leave the other avenues quite exposed, and much less likely for you to get noticed by any of the other surveilling enemies. From there, you can just work your way around and procedurally kill off the enemies from there. However, again, this will come down to personal preferences to the path you take. Now, I'm going to show you a full run that I did, and I feel would be the best path for you to take initially. There are a couple of different modes you can take here, but realistically, you want to go slowly the first time. You can sort of rush this and try and blast them down as you go, but realistically, you just want to time things out. Everything in this test is about timing and waiting for the right opportunity to strike and finding the avenues that will lead you the best opportune way of assassinating the Grineer target. Again, this does come down to practice and will come down to you testing this through Samaris to get the best muscle memory. Do not try and brute force this on your first attempt. You will fail. It is not a very easy challenge for the early stage of Warframe, and is why it is going to be the first thing that will test you in the early stage of progressing through the mastery ranks. And again, will be the first master rank you really very likely struggle with. So now you know what you're going to be approached by in each of the segments, and I want to emphasize, I cannot tell you the best avenue here. It will be down to you finding what works for you. However, I'm going to show you a clean run that I did and an avenue that I followed that helped me get through this quite easily. At the end of the day, this comes down to perseverance, testing, and trial by error. So make your runs through Samaris and then find the way that works for you. And then if you feel like you know a better way, then use that better way. There are, however, some tips that can definitely aid you in progressing through this easier. These tips, some of them will just make life a bit easier for yourself, and some of them will completely cheese the mechanics of this test, entirely making it trivial at best. One of the big things here are the way you can kill an enemy. Enemies have so little health that you can basically one-hit them with any weapon. So ideally, if you're not going to directly assassinate them by walking up behind an enemy and pressing X, you just want to run up and hit them as quickly as possible. Do not give them the chance to actually see you. Utilizing weapons with long range and fast attack speed can aid you a lot here. Alternatively, if you are going to execute an enemy, you want to use a weapon that's going to execute an enemy quickly, i.e. daggers or polearms. Again, for the non-execution kills, use a long, ranged weapon such as polearms, two-handed swords, and the like. And for the assassinations, just use a dagger. As already mentioned, but cannot be understated, the enemy view is extremely far, but it is a narrow cone in front of them, so make use of this narrow cone, and don't be afraid to run close to enemies. Just so long as you don't go directly in front of them, they shouldn't see you. You can literally be walking to the side of them, to the back of them, but due to the archaic AI that these Grineer targets are running by, they're not likely to see you unless you literally get your face in front of theirs. Thank goodness for DE's old AI system, eh? Oh, I can imagine the day that they upgrade it will all be screwed. Increasing your field of view and your options gives you a distinct benefit by being able to see more of the field you're going through. You can do this by going to the options menu and then going to display and then increasing your field of view to the max. Another good tip is to bring up your map by holding M. This will show you the enemy positions within your general vicinity. You can then mod for things like enemy radar to improve your enemy detection radius. This will then help you see the enemy movement from further away and allow you to predict your movements and judge your paths better. One tip that goes understated quite heavily is that because this is technically a solo adventure, if you press escape to bring up the menu, it will pause the mission, giving you better time to evaluate your situation. And now the final few tips are the ones that will allow you to completely cheese this mastery rank test. So if you want to give yourself a challenge, don't listen to these next ones. But if you've gotten fed up of dying and failing this miserably, then you can utilize these to remove any form of challenge from this test. Although you are limited to your melee weapon, there are certain melee weapons that can completely cheese the mechanic with range utility to them, starting with the Redeemer. Now, the Redeemer has alt fire, if you will, where in its regular attack pattern, it will shoot bullets based on the damage of the weapon itself. And because the enemy have such low health, even if you lightly graze one of the enemies, they'll die. Which means you can kill enemies from range without too much of an issue. The only downside is that the Redeemer is an alarming weapon. So you either need to utilize a mod to reduce the sound of the weapon, or you can use Banshee, which completely makes any weapon silent. The same can then be said for the glaive weapons. Any glaive weapon can be thrown like a discus from Xena the warrior, and that in turn can allow you to also kill enemies from range. And the great thing about these is that they are already silent from the word go. So utilizing the Redeemer or the Sarper for your gun weapon to kill enemies from range with either Banshee or silenced mods, or the glaive to just generally ping enemies from a distance, utilize these to get cheesy. They will help you kill enemies from a distance rather than having to go into melee. And if you have it by this point, the Skiajati is often one of the most utilized weapons in these stealth missions, as when you execute an enemy with it, it will turn you invisible. And when you're chaining these executions, so long as you get an execution off soon enough into the segment, you'll basically be able to chain stealth kills quickly enough to maintain invisibility throughout the entirety of the test. So, Master Rank 9, it's one of those first big old toughies that a lot of people complain about in Warframe, and I can certainly agree that this will test your mettle from the word go. But, again, like I said at the start of this video, there is no guide that can tell you definitively how to do this test. You got to get in there, you got to practice it, and above all, take your time. Utilizing Simaris with any of these mastery tests will make the biggest of difference. And of course, with these future Master Rank test videos, I am trying to conglomerate all of them into 4 tests per video. But for the harder ones, such as Master Rank 9, there'll be a much finer breakdown like we've done now to help you assess them and how best to approach them. So hopefully this video has been informative and helped you get through this nightmare of a test, because I know it was a nightmare for me when I started. And hopefully, you'll enjoy the future guides we do for these tests. So, if you have liked the video, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, follow the links down below for Twitch and Twitter, and I'll hopefully see all of you top hatters in the next guide. Ta-ra!